Swiping on Tinder the other day and saw a chick with the biggest fucking booty I've ever seen. God damn, that shit was huge. I could barely believe my eyes, man. I had to cool myself off with a chocolate chip ice cream cone from Ben & Jerry's. Shit was actually fire. No pun intended. My buddy Kevin from the Secret Service then brought me to the White House to sign some more shit. It was probably more money for Zelensky in Ukraine, but I didn't really give a fuck. Remember to keep it real and vote for me in 2024.
Live from downtown Detroit, it's No BS News Hour with my main man, Smalley.
Na. No bullshit!
It's just it breaking news. No more bullshit. No more bullshit.
Gassan, thank you very much. Welcome to the Never Quit News Hour, or as we like to say on Mondays, the No Bullshit Lunch Hour. If you didn't make the White Boy Rick show at Andiamo, it was sold out, man. That motherfucker was packed, wasn't it, Karen?
It was, they had everybody in there like sardines. There were a ton of people in there, a very eclectic mix of people too, I might add.
I might call it the Coney Island Freak Show myself. I was hoping we'd have that video for you. I'm working on it. A little coordination snafu, but we'll bring you the highlights from our memories. And the Never Quit News Hour. Outrageous news from the Lansing PD. We'll get to that. And outrageous news on the treatment of a firefighter who died in the line of duty. And he's all but forgotten up there in Flint. We never forget the first responders. And finally, old Spending Way Slotkin running for Senate. She's on the Bill Maher comedy hour. It was comedy, but not ha-ha, like, oh, man. I was also on Bill Maher, and we'll jam them up, and we'll see who did it better. That segment brought to you by maybe Charlie LeDuff out of run. But first, a word from our sponsors.
American Coney Island. So good, even Al Roker from the Today Show eats here. Not like that other guy, Al Joker, who eats at Lafayette. So make sure you're a Roker and not a Joker. American Coney Island.
I'm just getting worn out by people.
It's Monday.
Where were you fucking Saturday?
It's late. It took me too long to get back from Kentucky.
So Red doesn't show up to the White Boy Rick shit, but he decides to give some tickets out to all of his buddies who end up coming sitting at my wife's table. She didn't know who the fuck they are.
There's only one guy.
It's more than one that's necessary.
It's my co-host. He's a good guy.
It don't matter shit to my wife.
I'm sorry. I
That's better.
didn't know she.
That's better.
I mean, I'm just saying though.
But you don't see.
They said him.
Wait, but you don't see the issue with that. My wife's entertaining her people, and your people are coming up, and you don't bother to show up.
I mean, it wasn't that I didn't bother to show up. I
gave
couldn't make
you some
it.
tickets for you and your people. If you're not showing up, I don't expect my wife to be entertaining your people.
Okay. Well,
Am I crazy?
I mean, I'm just saying, you gave the tickets. It's like, what if I had had an accident? I was supposed to call everybody and said, don't go? I didn't know they was going to
That one I might understand. Red got in an accident.
But, well, it was an accident that made me backed up coming out of Kentucky. That's why I was late.
Why is everybody like that? Why don't know?
But I apologize, Amy, if you were uncomfortable. Let me say here on the show, I apologize.
They're better. Thank you. Thank you very much.
As best I got. I'm sorry.
Where the fuck were you?
I was backed up. It was an accident outside of Perrysburg, Ohio, that delayed us by about a whole hour. So by the time I hit the city, I wouldn't even have got in on time.
Wait a minute. This was Saturday night, the show here, right?
Right. I was on my way back.
Unless you were doing a breakfast set over there in Frankfort, Kentucky. I mean, What time did you leave?
I mean, check out 11 o'clock. We had a late night from the show the night
We had a
before.
late night.
We left at 11.
I see,
Should have
man.
been back here at
Bending over backwards to
5:36.
get you some fucking tickets and shit and fuck them. I'm gonna sleep in. I'm gonna get the continental breakfast.
Actually, I didn't even get to eat.
what'd you
I
get?
got sick the night before in Frankfurt.
That's 'cause you were partying your
Frankfurt.
balls off.
No, actually, I wasn't. Actually, what happened is somebody's fake fur possum fur got in my nose, and it was making me sick all goddamn night.
Some fake possum fur.
I'll tell you that story later.
I told you, stop picking up them fucking hookers.
I don't. Not in Frankfurt. I mean Frankfurt, Kentucky.
Right. Well, anyway, it was interesting, Karen, wasn't it? The evening with White Boy Rick. How do you describe the crowd?
Interesting. I said it was kind of as if a Walmart in Somerset blew up. It kind of just randomly landed. It was a very eclectic mix. A little trailer parkish, a little, West Bloomfield. It was a little bit of everybody. Everybody was
that is
interested
well said.
in his story. I think people were also very interested in your skill set, how you were going to extract what he hasn't already publicly shared, and so it was interesting. A little bit of old Detroit and a little bit of Desire Detroit.
I was introducing him, and I'm looking out in the crowd, and I'm like, oh, there's DEA to the left. FBI, I recognized at a right. Way back towards the soundboard was DPD. And there was a principal of Detroit Public School, and I'm thinking all the people Rick hoped to avoid for the rest of his life. Showing up to listen.
Well, they wanted to make sure he didn't say no more shit.
Well, his attorney kind of tagged him a little bit throughout the interview. I don't think Charlie saw him because they were on a stage, and he kind of walked up to the side, kind of gave him like, "Hey, tone it down a little bit."
That's the first question I asked the dude. It's like, well, hopefully we'll get this tape and we'll play it Thursday. But I was like, why are you even up here? You got $100 million lawsuit with the federal government and the state authorities for taking a 14-year-old boy and injecting him into the dope gang to be an informant. So he said to set the record straight. So I asked him about it. We kind of know that story. I'll save it. But I said, how is it, dude, that at 17 years old, you're arrested. 18 years old, you're convicted. You're sent to the state penitentiary where you're an informant. And it's kind of getting out around town that you're an informant. How come you didn't take one in the neck or one in the ass?
What was his response?
To me, look, I'll give you his response goes, I never snitched on no dope boys. In fact, look in the back. All the neighborhood guys are with me. I never snitched on that. I snitched on the police that the feds came to me as a 14-year-old boy, and if I could ingratiate myself with the dope gangs, then we would have a run-in with the police, and you could figure out which police were on the take. So when you're in the pen, you kind of got some credibility for ratting out police, which, okay, 80% of White Boy Rick's story is a fable. Right? It's all White Boy Rick.
Right.
He ran a big cartel and he was the head of a big dope gang, which wasn't true.
No.
Right? He got thrown away after he was useful to the FBI, and he just started going
Hustling.
to Miami and picking up a couple kilos.
Yeah.
Not 100 kilos, 5 kilos. You know what I mean? So I think that's I don't know. I said he's on the record. That's what he says. What do I know?
I wanted to say this right quick before we go any further. Looking at the pictures, what's amazing to me is how many people are so interested in his story.
Yeah.
The place is packed. That's a huge room.
They were bringing in table. That was 1,000 people easy.
Yeah, so, and it's just amazing. Would people care about the average dope guy around the corner who did way more volume, made way more money? The draw to this guy is amazing to me.
Yeah, I opened it up like he is one of the big stories in the second half of American 20th century gangland stories, right? There's Gotti.
Yeah.
There's Pablo Escobar. There's Jimmy Hoffa. And then White Boy Rick. Except the story's interesting because the story's a lie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm talking to him and he's saying No, I never snitched on any dope guys, but that's counter to almost everything written about him. People he's given interviews to.
Wasn't that what his informant job was at first anyway?
Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But he's up there saying no, no. So, okay, fine. What was the big reaction to me, Karen was on another angle. I was next to him. That's my lawyer calling. I'll just have to put him on hold. He goes down as the longest serving juvenile nonviolent offender, right? He did something like 29 years in the state and federal.
Even after the mandatory minimums were thrown out,
yes,
deemed unconstitutional.
Right. Yeah. It used to be 650 grams or more you're doing life. Yep. They threw it out 10 years into his sentence. He doesn't even get a parole hearing for 15 years. He's supposed to get him every 5. So I looked at him. I said, dude, I'm going to be honest, man. Like growing up, you and my brother are very much alike. I never gave a shit about your story. I didn't, because of the fable of you're the big dope dealer, right? You got a crew. You might have not have killed anybody, but cocaine's a death business. There's no doubt about that. So people die when there's kilos being exchanged.
What was his response to that?
I said it twice, and he flared up. And this, to me, was the highlight. He flared up, and he said, well, look at big pharmaceutical companies. Look at the Sackler family, the people that came up with OxyContin, you know? He goes, they killed hundreds of thousands of people, and nobody did a day. Yep. And yet the guys at the street level, the not connected, the lesser than the regular people, the people that are connected hide behind the veil of incompetency, and they pay some money. The people amongst us, you get locked up behind a curtain of bars.
Right.
And it's true. And that's really the point of modern American life. There was no way the guy ever should have done 30 years.
But Charlie, you still got people in jail, when he and I talked backstage, because when he got out, he had a
You got to talk backstage? That green room was so jammed I couldn't even get in there. Just you get my coat.
Did he have an entourage with him?
Oh yeah. Go on, Karen, you were saying. You
You
got to make room for humor, Karen. All right.
Oh, it's humorous. But no, and I asked him because when he got out, he had a Free Big Meat shirt on, and so I asked him about that, and he was like, yeah,
who is
meat
that,
should not.
First of all? Who's Big Meat? Thank you.
That Big Meat from the Black Mafia family, the Flint family. They now have a show on Stars. The documentary 50 Cent has done a documentary on it. Big drug dealers here in the city of Detroit. And Charlie, you and I were going through the list of them, and they were some of the top ones. But he too is serving some astronomical sentence for non-violent offenses. So there are tons of people in jail for the same thing. But he has come out on brand. He didn't land on his feet. He landed on a pedestal. Not very many people can come out of jail for any length of time and step into the marijuana business. He works for a healthcare company. He's a sought after consultant. He's got, what did he say? More than 6 cars, a home in Miami. He bought his he's running off, but he said he likes that drug dealer lifestyle.
We were backstage. He was marveling, at the modern world that he's not been a part of, like smartphones and legal weed, and we're getting ready to come on, and he's like, "Oh, I just made 11 grand." I'm like, "Sweet."
So he looking at the
He's got all the merchandise.
Bitcoin.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Yep.
But he's got his merchandise, so he has done what everybody should do, regardless of who they are or what they have or have not done. He has embraced, built, and is now profiting from his brand. That's exactly what he's doing, and he should.
Well, his sister
everybody should.
His sister wasn't happy. Like we did Q&A at the end, and I walked off. There's no place for me to be, in the Q&A. There's no question for me. But do you have that?
Yeah, not the greatest audio.
The garbled audio?
You'll be able to tell what they're saying here.
Hi.
Wedding's a
I'm your
fucking
sister,
same
and
day.
I'd just like to know how you feel it's okay to turn your back on me and not tell the truth about all I've done for you and your children from day one.
Listen,
Because Dad would be rolling over.
if you be an adult and don't be a fucking idiot, you might have a relationship with me. So keep it moving. Keep it moving.
To which I come back on stage.
Whoa.
How dare her.
Whoa.
How dare her.
See me after the show.
See you after the show.
You know, it's funny to me, though.
Charlie, I thought we were filming an episode of Jerry Springer. I was like, what is happening here?
One could hope. But look, that guy. Go ahead, Red. You gonna say?
No, if you listen to it, you hear a woman underneath saying, "How dare her?"
Yeah, the crowd did not like that.
Yeah, like they turned on her really quick.
I couldn't hear up there, so I don't know. I don't know how any of it went over, to be honest with you.
Oh.
No idea.
But you could tell in Rick's voice there, he was pissed.
Yeah, but you could see Rick is like, I told him, I hope we get that. I'm assured we're going to get that. I thought it was pretty good. And I said to him, look, he's an impressive man. He's got a 7th grade education. You do 3 decades in the pen. You grew up in the pen. I'm not expecting a lot. I'm expecting, a little bit of uncouthness. I mean, and no offense to anybody did 30 years, but it's a really
rough around the edges a little
dark,
bit.
heavy place, right? Yeah. He's really demure. He's right, Karen? He really holds himself well. He's really contained. His vocabulary's quite extensive. He's a deep guy. But when I said to him, it's a deaf business, and when his sister was up there, you saw some of that edge.
Yeah.
Get the fuck on. Get the fuck on.
But Charlie, he represents the Detroit that I remember. And those are the white people that grew up in Detroit because they grew up around black people. And so he's not culturally appropriating. That's who he grew up around. Like the girl that stood up and said, hey, I'm from the 48205, and I remember she too, I mean, when white people are around black people, they pick up certain mannerisms and it's not cultural appropriation. It becomes part of who they are.
Well, I'll say this. No, that sounds like white people I knew and grew up with. You know what I'm saying? He sounds exactly like white people I grew up with.
Well, and you could have. That's fine. Yeah, so maybe. I'm not saying
there is a toughness, right? When you're from a more hard scrabble back, he sounds like New York. He sounds like
the east side of Detroit, Charlie.
Well, I'm sorry, Karen. He sounds like Brooklyn. He absolutely sounds like Brooklyn. He does. So that was interesting. At an Italian supper club with Pedangle Dave and Martha Reeves.
Yeah, we were at an Italian supper club,
and his entourage, two big beefy dudes, confused at how you divide 3 shrimp between 2 men.
Were they jumbo shrimp?
I was busy, man. I worked so hard on this shit. I did. Because, I'm doing it for historical purposes. When it's all said and done and you look something up, I wanted something real. So this is what I found out about him last week. I was calling around the old crew, the courthouse, the precinct. He finally got his parole in 2017. This is 100% accurate, straight from the horse's mouth. Can't tell you who it is. But at the very highest levels of this town, they were shopping a 30-year stale, cold murder rap to put on him. Because they knew he was getting out. They didn't want him out. That guy ratted out cops. He sent Coleman Young's niece to prison, right? He tagged Gil Hill.
Oh, yeah.
There's still I told him, man, you don't got a lot of friends in the power clique here.
No, a lot of people's careers were put at risk, lost.
Fuck them in their career. They're fucking corrupt.
They were corrupt, but what I'm saying is that's how they looking at it. They want to keep him in the hole. They don't want him out here running around loose because you never know what might come out next.
The whole shit's corrupt.
But so many of those people you named aren't around. Are you surprised that their power is still that strong? Because I kind of am.
People remember. Well, after a while, they let him out, didn't they?
Yeah.
But there's still a little vestigial, let's fuck this guy. He totally got fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm talking to the DEA afterwards, right? And they agree. Put it this way. A hitman, guy named Boone, was hired to kill Rick when he was out at 17 years old rolling the coke. He says it was Gil Hill, right? That was the hit. Boone admitted in court to murdering 30 people.
Wow.
He did 17 years. He did 6 months of murder.
Wow.
And like Rick's doing what, 32 years?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that earlier. It's people that committed murder and got out with less time.
30.
And yeah, this dude did 30. Wow. Yeah. They didn't want him out. They too scared of what else might come out.
So that was my honor to do that. That was, like I said, I did not. I hope you all enjoyed it, and hopefully we can get that tape. Let's move on here to the new section I'm calling "Never Quit." Ooh. Never quit on you. Brought to you by XG Service Group, experts in voice over internet protocol, phone service, security cameras, hidden cameras, access control, soundboards, menu boards, construction cameras, railroad cameras, security, all of it. All of your
Camera
IT
needs.
streaming needs. Call Matt Yaskovitz at 734-245-4100. Let me start with this. This is a fucking outrage. Do you remember there was a mass shooting on campus at Michigan State University? 2
weeks ago?
Last month?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, it seems like people have forgotten.
Okay, do you remember my problem with the police department? When they said, we made a trip to his house on a
welfare
check for his father, got nothing to do with the mass murderer who goes on a spree 8 days later. And the police basically insinuate that the neighbors are lying. There was never shots fired from that house. The police were never called, and they were never there. And then I went through a rigmarole, a Freedom of Information Act. I called them. I wrote to them. A week later, they hadn't gotten back. Promised me they would. They're holding these bullshit press conferences till we all go away. A week later, I haven't heard from you. So I do the official Freedom of Information Act. I don't hear from you. Then I make the call. Then I hear from you and say, you have to go to a website in Lansing and put it in there. To which I have my lawyer help me draft up a letter. I'm not putting it in any website. You've got it. Honor it. To which they got back to me 12 days ago saying, I have it. The law says 7 days ago, after 5 days, you respond saying you received it and it's being processed, and then you send me a letter asking for 2 more weeks. You got 1 week. I'm suing the fuck out of you.
Good.
So the mayor, he gonna run for Congress, right? All of a sudden, he's not gonna run for Congress.
No explanation.
What was going on with your police department? I want reports. I gave him specific streets around that gunman's house. Did you ever respond there? Did you ever respond there? Did you ever take his name down? Because I know the neighbors now. Not quitting. We deserve better than this shit.
Yeah, people act like they don't want to give answers, but they always talking about transparency. Well, that happens with giving fucking answers where you give them. When it's asked for, give it.
But they're also accustomed to people dropping the ball because you move on to the next tragedy or you move on to the next issue. The follow up and the follow through aren't there, and I think they're accustomed to that too. So just give it time, and they'll forget and move on to something else.
No, we never quit. See, I got something called literacy. I know how to write it down on a piece of paper, and I put the piece of paper on my desk, and every day I look at it and go, oh, yeah, I got to get to that one. Oh, yeah, I got to do my taxes. Oh, yeah, my columns due. Oh, yeah, I got to finish that documentary. Oh, yeah, I got to pay the editor for the video we did at White Boy Rick. I got to do it. You know why? Because I want it to be right. Yeah, that's the list. That's the list. And then it comes out in the paper today that Whitmer's pal on the Michigan Economic Development Court, the one giving out the fucking billions, who's also the vice chairman of the state Democratic Party, who's also the executive director of the Arab American Chamber of Commerce, did I also say she's on the board of the Economic Development Court? Mm-hmm. Gets a $20 million grant to bring in foreign money to invest in Michigan, although she's never been overseas. I don't know if she has a college degree. This company is named as the recipient, but the company didn't exist yet. They passed legislation for a company that didn't exist yet, and the company's at her house.
Oh boy,
Wow.
and it's a nonprofit. Is that, or is it not a non? I mean,
Do some what the fuck?
well,
man?
you were telling me before.
Pulling my pants down on
You told me
air.
before it was. I thought you said before the show it was.
Well, just thanks
Either
for
way,
taking me
doesn't
down the
matter.
rabbit
It's,
hole.
it's very odd that it would be her home address.
I wonder how many employees she had.
Zero.
Yeah, just her.
It's not clear. It's not clear. Let me see if I don't have to find it. And then other directors on the Michigan Economic Development Corporation got their sweetheart deals. You have to remember, these are earmarks. These are those special little $1 billion in bullshit. It's a fucking hustle.
Yep, it is.
It's graft. It's great. Give the money back. And then the guy, Jason Wentworth, right? I think he was Speaker of the House at the time. They got his name on the guy that sponsored the legislation. He's coming out to Craig Malgar at the Detroit News going, I didn't sponsor that.
Oh, jeez. So how would it get passed? It's very interesting.
Gretchen.
Amazing,
Gretchen. This stinks. Now, to be fair, fucking Republicans, we still got Lee Chatworth, the former Republican Speaker of the House.
Chatfield?
What'd I say?
Chatworth. Chatfield?
Oh, Chatfield. Yeah, thank you for that. Very good. Thank you, man. Well, I'm getting them all confused.
That's what I was going to say.
This guy's doing booty calls. He's working a slush fund here. He's traveling around on private jets, drinking champagne. He's under. That's like it stings.
Yep. And before the show, you were going through that list of what money went where, and it was just name, connected to group, connected to board, connected to name. It's very sickening.
Well, it's a continuous vicious cycle of they keep each other paid while the rest of us keep getting broker.
I feel like it's if you can't beat them, join them kind of thing too.
I refuse. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but people do that though because they feel like there's nothing they can do.
Exactly.
That even though they complain or they're becoming aware and they oppose it, so after a certain Charlie, we talked about this the other day. People just throw up their hands and say, "Forget it. I might as well just benefit from it because I can't seem to impact it," and that's unfortunate.
I think politics takes a particular scumbag these days. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There you go. Whitmer appointee donor gets $20 million. Oh, she raised a bunch of money for Whitmer too.
I thought that was just a given.
Right.
Let's go down here. Like, okay, in this story, okay, ding da da. Whitmer's office, which was in the room for many of the negotiations, also maintained that Wentworth sponsored the grant, even though he says he didn't. Wow.
Oh boy.
Okay, let me go down here. Okay. Let's see. The news is this historic $76 billion budget. There were 140 items to receive about $1 billion in grant funding that there was no discussion on. Many of the 140 projects included few to no details about who the money would benefit or how it would be spent. A lot of representatives didn't even know these things were coming to their district.
That's crazy.
Yeah, let's see. I spoke with multiple people. Okay.
Well, what's amazing to me is even after all this come out, we're not going to see anybody get penalized, go to jail, lose their job. It's just it seems to just continue.
So, yeah.
And we don't stop. And we don't stop electing these folks. I mean, we hear what they do. We see what they don't do. And we just keep putting them back in office and not holding them accountable.
Okay, so the Economic Development Corp is the one that takes this money from the budget, right? And disperses it. And she's on the executive committee, so she's dispersing it to herself.
So, right.
Okay, but she's not the only one. Here. The Regional Council of Carpenters and Millwrights, whose president, Thomas Lutz, serves on the MEDC Executive Committee, received $5 million for skilled trades promotion. Lawmakers who designated $100 million towards the construction of the University of Michigan Innovation Center in downtown Detroit to be built by Chrissy Illich of Olympia Development. Well, Mike McLaughlin, the vice president of government affairs for Chrissy Illich, is on the executive committee.
Wow.
Ferris State University's Jim Crow Museum received $1 million enhancement grant, and Bill Pink, the university's president, is on the board. I could keep going.
That's crazy.
Okay, fuck you guys, fuck you. Here's another fuck you. Flint firefighter Ricky Hill Jr. died February 25th fighting a fire in Flint. Couple things about Ricky, right? Public servant. Ricky was working a double shift. That's not allowed for fire. You don't work 48 hours as a firefighter. They removed that from the official incident report. That's coming out of City Hall, Flint. That's a source. 2, there was a big funeral for Ricky, who died in the line of duty, but Flint hasn't fucking paid his funeral bill.
What?
Jesus.
Stuck the widow, who's a nurse. She met him when they were both working as EMTs. She stuck with it. So there is a Ricky Hill GoFundMe if any of you care about we the working people. Ricky Hill Jr., look it up on GoFundMe. She still doesn't have a death certificate for her husband. That's how fucked up Genesee County is.
And she can't even file any insurance policies or anything without that death certificate. So that's holding up the process to her to get things kind of in order on that point.
How about Sheldon Neely, you creature from the swamp? You Whitmer pal, all of you up there in Flint. You're as corrupt as Detroit. You're as corrupt as Macomb County. Right? You're corrupt as the banks. Corrupt.
It's like we're
Sheldon, pay the fucking guy's funeral costs. That's part of the deal.
Right.
Now, here's the insult of all insults. Office of the Governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. Looks like a robo signing down here. March 3rd, 2023, to the family of Ricky Hill Jr. Dear family of Ricky, on behalf of the state of Michigan, please accept my sincerest condolences on the recent passing of Ethan Quillen. I am truly grateful for all the contributions Ricky has made to our state. Through his work with the Flint Township Fire Department, Ricky has undoubtedly touched the lives of thousands of Michiganders. Let me say that again. On behalf of the state of Michigan, please accept my sincerest condolences on the recent passing of Ethan Quillen.
That's stupid.
This is a foreign
That
letter.
Yep.
You're right. It'd be funny if it wasn't so fucking sad.
That means the family of Ethan Quillen got the exact same fucking letter.
Yep.
That your bums, you crummy bureaucrats who are really more interested in snaking our dough.
Right.
That you couldn't even double check it's so, your sincerest apologies. This is so insincere. This is so
That's an
revealing.
insult.
You're right. It's a bigger insult than if they sent nothing.
It is because, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Charlie.
Let me tell you how it works. This is what you do, madam. First of all, you have somebody proofread this. See, you have somebody proofread that. You got a lot of hacks on staff, and you know what? They didn't do very good in college. Their dads are some kind of something up there, and you hook them up. We all know. I know you bozos. Here's the second thing, madam. You have your staff do it for you if you can't do it yourself. Just write 3 lines. 3 lines on a 2x5 card.
Yeah.
And then you hand write them.
Yep.
And insert that with this letter. Because God forbid you have to write 12 of these things a year, right? First responders, the ultimate working person, right? You respect them. You touch the lives of thousands, absolutely. You handwrite.
She didn't sign that either, Charlie. That was done with an arm. That's another thing. So that's somehow was brought to her attention, and her staff did the letter, and that was signed by an arm. She didn't even sign the letter. But that's where, and we keep saying this, you've got those kids working for you or for her that are on social media, that are spelling things wrong, that don't call people back, that aren't doing what they're supposed to do. That's an arm signature.
Yeah,
that she didn't sign that.
Robo sign.
You can see it, yeah.
And you know what?
That's exactly what it is.
This is what I had proposed through bankruptcy. Like, if somebody dies on the job, first responder, how about an immediate $500,000 payment to the family? You cover the funeral expenses, and you give them life and health insurance until the children are raised and they're adults. Right? Is this going to break the bank? That wouldn't take $20 million a year. But you're hooking up your fucking bum friends with not even a company registered yet, and you're passing legislation for a company that doesn't exist. And Ricky's wife doesn't know what to do.
And she's stuck on the hook for a funeral that should have been paid for.
Shame on you, Mayor. Shame on you, Governor. Shame on you, Michigan Economic Development Corp. Shame on the big banks. Shame on the Federal Reserve. And were they too big to bail out? Was Silicon Valley Bank, did they need to? It wasn't a bailout. The investors, the depositors were made whole. These were billionaires. Right. This is venture capitalists. They didn't know enough how to hedge. Okay, fine. You don't want the contagion spreading. You don't want little old us. You don't want Ricky's widow worried she got to pull her $5,000 out of the bank. She can't even afford it, right? Okay, so this one, who did it better? It's a new
another
it's a new
segment.
segment I just came up with. Who did it better? Brought to you by-
Charlie, wait, before you go.
Yeah.
So who is
Before we go.
Ethan? That's the other thing. Like, is that just somebody that they
Ethan
sent a
Quillen.
letter to? Is it an accident? I mean, is that somebody who was deceased? I mean,
why don't
who
you
is Ethan?
Google
I will,
him.
yep.
Google it right now.
I will.
Right
Okay.
now. Ethan Quillen, Quillen. And my condolences to the family of the Quillens.
That's a good question. Karen.
Quillen. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, well, let's not just dismiss that. Yeah, he was an obituary. That was in February.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
What happened to Ethan? He was a firefighter at Pawpaw?
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
Yep. Well,
Beloved,
it says he was
respected-
struck by cause of, it was a fatal injury. It was on the on-scene fire, but maybe it was in a car accident.
What's it say? Let's remember.
It says he died by a complete accident during the ice storm Wednesday evening. Hold on. Let's see.
What date was that?
February 24th.
February 20th. He was killed during the ice storm. A tree limb fell during the storm, taking a power line with it, and ultimately Ethan's life. So there you go, your DTE thing again.
Jesus.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So that's two.
Two in 2 days.
So that's two firefighters. So now, so those are two first responders who have been emotionally compromised and, to me, insulted because they've been mixed up on an alleged condolence letter.
And my God, nobody wanted to do work. You couldn't personalize
It takes 5 minutes. It took us 30 seconds to pull that up.
That's what I'm about to say. You just pulled that
How
up.
about just write a real letter?
Yeah. Be a human being.
Right.
How about mean it, though? Charlie.
Well, that's the point, Karen. That's exactly right. Like,
decent.
take
Let me tell
an
you this.
hour.
Yeah.
But also, we need to stop politicizing stuff. Let's stop acting like a letter or a certificate from these people means something after death. If you remember the 3 students that died from Michigan State, the one young lady, her family wanted no part of it. They didn't want it live streamed, and they told the officials they didn't want them at the funeral. The young man from Grosse Pointe allowed them to come to the viewing. They said they wanted no part of the funeral. The young lady from East Detroit, they had all of these elected officials sitting in there for 3 hours at a Black funeral, where I know that was a whole nother experience for them. And they're sitting there acting like they care when they were there.
All the time.
Yeah. No, it's not it, Charlie. I'm saying it was different because, I mean, they're sitting there. Gretchen, never mind. Forget it.
Yeah,
Go.
the
What were you about to
race
say?
thing,
What's
black
the next
folks,
one?
we
Are you
take
done,
3
Karen?
days.
Did you get that off your chest?
No,
Black folks
I'm
take
not,
3
but we'll
days to
talk
bury
later.
their
That's the way to wrap it up there. I'm done. Just move on. What fuck is this?
But I'm saying,
What are you,
like,
Arthur
everybody was
Fiedler
sitting
and I'm with the Boston Pops over here?
No, but everybody's sitting
I'm done
there
with it.
like they
Karen
like
got
they
Jamaica
care
on
about
the mind.
people. Yeah, I do. But it's like, they're sitting there like they care about this young lady, or like they're doing something. Has anybody reached out to her family? They sat there for 3 hours like it meant something.
Do you all want to help? Do you all want to help me get to the? Do you all want to help me get to the bottom of what happened in Flint with the police department? That would be nice,
Yes.
Governor. Now listen, who did it better? Brought to you by ADR, experienced, overseeing more than $250 million in private and public construction projects. Keep it on time, on budget. ADR. Call Barry Ellen Tucker, 248-318-9424 for a consultation. Experts in procurement and government compliance and information technology. So they really got this one going. Baghdad Betty, Alyssa Slotkin, who I now like to call Spend and Waste Slotkin, was on the Bill Maher program.
Really?
Gonna field issues and talk about the banks and crime and punishment and, where
Important stuff.
where fiscal policy and monetary policy is headed. Let's just roll this. Let's see how good she is.
2 office seekers I have here. All right, so the banks are failing again, which gets people 2 things: angry, right, about the money going away and us having to cover it if that's going to be the case, and scared. I'm a little scared. I've seen this movie before, and I hope it doesn't keep going. Maybe they put an end to it, but I don't know. So you want to be president, you want to be senator, and I assume president after that. So how do you punish the people who recklessly waste our money without taking down the whole system? That always seems to be the case. Or do we just have to put up with it, that it's always a gun to our head, that if we really punish them, no?
No, I mean, I think the Silicon Valley Bank is the perfect moment to take the head of that bank, who was selling off his stock and making millions of dollars in the days before the scandal happened, who is now scuttled away to Hawaii and in his home in Hawaii. Oh. It is perfectly reasonable, I think, to have a conversation about bringing him out and showing the world that you can't just fail and take risks with people's money and throw down and that's a perfect time.
But that's just him.
That's just him, but it should
right.
be.
But I'm talking about they're paying 100 cents on the dollar. We're talking about billions. Yes, you can take care of this guy. What does it cost you, $10, $15 million? I'm talking about making everybody whole. That's what takes this. Yeah, I mean, that's where the big money is. This is easy to get him in Hawaii.
Well, we need a new term, Bill, because everyone says bailout, bailout. Bailout means that the executives are still there. They're fired. The shareholders are made whole. They're not. They're zeroed out. The people that got their money were depositors, people who just had their money in the bank. They chose the 16th biggest bank in the country. So them getting their money back actually was necessary for confidence to continue in the financial system. Even with this backstop, there's a lot of fear. You're not the only one, Bill. There are people withdrawing their money from regional banks around the country and plowing them into what? JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citibank. Those mega banks we all know they're too big to fail, and all the lesser banks now have to try and keep the confidence of their depositors. So this backstop was the right move.
Yes, it's what adults do.
But it is different. I mean, this is different than what we went through in 2008, right? I mean, I think
hope.
it's not taxpayer dollars. I mean, I think we are not coming in to heal these banks with U.S. taxpayer dollars. There is a fund, $100 million fund, that is made out of bank fees and fines when they screw up.
Right.
And that is what's backstopping these depositors. That's fundamentally different.
That's fundamentally different. You're out to lunch. First of all, it's not a $100 million fund. It's a $125 billion fund. Okay? That's from the banks having to pay fees to the FDIC. But, madam, if you actually look at the loss, the uninsured capital deposited in these banks between Signature and Silicon Valley Bank, the total was $200 billion. We don't have enough in that fund to capitalize these losses. Okay? Number 2, Bill Maher called you out for your silly talking points. He said, that's easy. Let's call him out. Let's put him in front of a committee.
Yeah, you got to find the boogeyman that everyone can yell at, which we know that person. That's not the issue here.
Yeah, and did you know, madam, that the bank was under the Federal Reserve supervision for a year? They knew. And so Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, is going to have to come out because he's trapped. Do you raise interest rates because inflation's running away? Do you keep them level because the banks are collapsing? Either one you do, you look weak.
Fucked. Yeah.
We're fucked.
Yeah.
The market's not going to react well. It might the first day. They'll digest it, and I'd short the market if I was a gambler, man, and I'm not.
Yeah. Well, they just they don't like uncertainty in the market, so be strong in your decision. But either way, we're fucked. The people are screwed.
And then what's Bill Maher talking about? He's talking about the trillions.
Yes.
Right.
So what the bank did, Silicon Valley Bank, is they invested in long-term treasury bonds, right, at a nice interest rate, but interest rates started going up. So new treasury bonds will pay you more interest the bank needed to get money to pay back the scared depositors. They had to sell them at a loss. So now we have a program. It's probably up to $2 trillion in all the banks that bought these long-term bonds. $2 trillion. Yeah. Okay? That means that's the Fed printing money again. You got to inject another $2 trillion into the system to keep the banks floating. And the Fed's been trying to take money out by raising interest rates to bring down inflation. We're fucked. Yeah. So what you should be talking about is bringing back Glass-Steagall banking regulations, capital requirements, risk requirements, stress tests, like looking at the books for all of the banks, not just the biggest banks. That's what you should talk about, not taxpayer dollars. One more thing, something called the discount window. The Fed's got a discount window. That means the banks can go to the Federal Reserve and borrow money at a very, very, very low interest rate for 90 days. Normally, call my guy. We had him on, you know, we got people on. That last one was great. That economics stuff, that was a good one. Normally in a work week, banks across the country withdraw about $4 or $5 billion from the window. Last week, they withdrew over $150 billion, which is by far a record. So no. Now, I sat in bed this morning, spending away Slotkin. You voted for the American Recovery Act. Trump is to blame as well for running $1 trillion deficits every year, and then the COVID $2 trillion. That was going to begin it. But Biden supercharged it, and Slotkin and the Democrats went along with all of this. Instead of waiting to see what the economy would do, trillions, the American Recovery Act, the infrastructure bill, which got a lot of pork in it, the Inflation Reduction Bill, which doesn't reduce inflation, the omnibus bill, right? That $1.7 trillion, all the executive orders. You're spending too much fucking money.
Period.
You got to talk to us.
Yeah.
And say it's going to take common sacrifice, because we're sacrificing anyway.
Right.
With no direction.
It's like a high school girl with a credit card in the mall. Spin. Ain't my money.
I seen a lot of high school boys do that too. That'd be out in the valley in L.A. Oh, yeah. The nice cars and shit. I mean, that's the deal. Now, I went on Bill Maher about, a decade ago is the last time I went on there. So I'm just saying, talk real to me. Like, this was, Michael Steele was on there. He's the former chairman of the Republican National Committee, black man. And he's quit. And he's talking about how the Republicans are lost in space and it's changing around him. He didn't foresee Trump, now did he? But
no.
So here he is talking about Republicans, what they have to do.
The rebranding for the party is important. Otherwise, it becomes more irrelevant than it is right now. And I think that the fact of the matter is that the political grounds have shifted. The leadership is stuck in a time warp of thinking that America will come back to it because they don't like what they see out on this scary plane. Either it's Barack Obama or it's mandated health care, without having to make a cogent argument, without having to understand that America is much more black and brown than it ever has been and will be.
It seems like when you were the chairman, when they made you the chairman of the party, that was rebranding, and then they wanted to unrebrand.
Exactly.
They were like, whoa, what the fuck did we do there? That's not who we are. We're the party of old white guys. This is false advertising.
What does branding do?
Yeah.
Branding's just a brand. It's called substance.
But the branding, you're right. Ultimately, you've got to get to substance. There's no doubt about it. But the branding is the way you begin the conversation, is to make that attraction, to get people to focus on what you're about to say.
Well, since it's Women's Day, 75% of the country, more or less, is white. 75% of the voters, more or less, is white. And 40% of all voters are white women. It's time Republicans started talking to their daughters. Don't come out with some crazy abortion shit every 4 years.
Married people vote Republican, single people vote Democrat, and there are more single people and less married people. That's part of the Democrat.
And they shouldn't give up on black people. Black people are conservative.
Well, conservative. They are. I mean, but that's exactly the point.
I think you were
Charlie.
Who wore it better?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think you did. You're quite prophetic with a lot of things there too in a short amount of time.
But you're also consistent too, Charlie. That's the thing. You're still talking about substance and accountability and, not just moving talking points, but the realities of what we're trying to deal with.
And that's like really, where you make your money in life, Karen, is like that balance between projection and reality. So when branding, man, we just want to be talked to as a human family, different wings of the family, but we're still a family, and it's failing us all.
But that's why they fail, Charlie, because they don't have the balance, and people look at presentation and narrative, and they don't pay attention to substance. And if you don't have a platform built on substance, it will your brand and your presentation and your narrative and your talking points will ultimately fail.
Yeah, and I'm expecting this. Like, you don't have to be the Harvard economist or whatever. There's so much to know when you're a senator, but I expect you to be up to speed on things. I expect you to work hard. I expect you to not just fall in line with the party, raise a bunch of bullshit money, pull the lever when you're told to, right? Know a little bit about banking. You're flying out to LA in the middle of a fucking crisis. I can't do it this week.
But they're people. If you notice, Charlie, whether it's congressional, senatorial, whatever, they're always reading stuff. So I think they have a topical, but it's always their staff behind them. They're the ones that are writing their remarks. They're the ones that are prepping them. They're the ones that are telling them the things that they need to know before, whether it's an interview, whether it's speaking before their colleagues. And so that's why it's important to also have a staff around you that understands what's going on as well.
Fine. It's too bullshit for me. It's just, you should know. Like, I don't have a staff behind me knowing what I know.
Well, it's just like this. I'm not going to go to a doctor who thinks he's a doctor. I want a doctor that's a doctor.
Well, what you see there, that is a politician.
Yeah.
So you get what you're paying for. We need something new. Don't vote whatever you think of Joe Manchin, hey, he said it too. You pass that, inflation going to skyrocket. Everybody's in agreement now why it took off. You weren't smart enough to watch the fundamentals of the market coming out of COVID and let it come back to its own equilibrium. And when it needed priming, if it needed priming, that's how you did it. They just, everything to everybody, and we're fucking in a trick bag now. And you don't know it's okay, you misspoke. 100 million, you meant 100 billion. It's 125 billion. Let's get it straight. Know what the capitalization rate of these banks are. Get it straight.
And as a politician, what I really expected to hear us say was we need to put more stringent regulations back in the banking system to start straightening it out.
Well, they're coming anyway.
Yeah, I mean, not tell me about one dude off in a Hawaii house. I give less than a damn about this one dude. What about the whole system? It's broke. It needs to be fixed.
Well, again, to actually inform you on something. The banking re-regulation after the final the collapse of 2008. It's the Dodd-Frank.
Yeah.
Dodd-Frank put in these capitalization rates for mid-range banks. Mm-hmm. Under Trump, that got repealed. So something like
250 million million per bank, right?
No, billion.
Okay.
So SVB might
I'm pulling a Slotkin.
It might not even have been in there, but it should be even more stringent, like for maybe all banks.
Yeah.
Okay. Under Trump, it was repealed. Debbie Stabenow, Democrat from Michigan. Gary Peters, Democrat from Michigan. They voted for that. Mm-hmm. I never would have voted for that. I would never have voted for the Iraq action. I was all in favor.
Charlie.
I was all in favor of Afghanistan. I wasn't in favor of the 3 tax cuts under Bush for the wealthy. I wasn't in favor of Barack Obama turning the Treasury over to Wall Street. I wasn't in favor of Trump and his tax cuts and the $1 trillion deficits. I wasn't in favor of the American Recovery Act the infrastructure bill as it passed, the inflation reduction bill as it passed, the omnibus bill as it passed, or the executive orders as they were written. No way.
I think we just heard Charlie's campaign commercial right there.
That's brought to you
But you
by
know what?
maybe he should.
But you know what? Look at these people before they ran for office. What did they do? That's
Can I get
also
in?
something.
Can I get in? Baghdad Betty Slotkin worked for the CIA. She was involved in Abu Ghraib. She was involved in the surge. She was involved in the rise of ISIS. She was involved in the black ops prisons. She was involved in Guantanamo Bay. It was John McCain himself, when she came up, it was going to be a little political favor. She's going to be Assistant Secretary of Defense. He went, no fucking way, wouldn't bring it to a vote. He goes, she was so bad at her job. He said, I learned more from the New York Times about what's going on there than I do from you. This is no record.
Yeah. It's like we don't run our resumes on our politicians like we used to.
Well, you got to know bullshit how we're doing it.
Yep.
And if you vote for it, fine. I respect you. I respect you. Fine. But you should know.
Right. And know who you're voting for.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to stand
Well, just
on
stop
it.
forgetting. But people need, listen, what did we just say 2 seconds ago? You can Google a whole lot of this stuff. We just buy into what we hear in the moment. What did they do before? What did they stand for? What did they do not stand for?
Where did you live?
Where did you
ain't
live?
got that answer.
You went to Cranbrook. You moved away. You went to the Ivy League schools. Then you lived in New York. Then you lived in Washington. When have you lived here? Because this last election, we found out you're renting a condo from a lobbyist involved with you, who's also registered to vote there, and his business is registered there. Your husband's not registered to vote in Michigan. He's registered to vote in Florida. You got a house in Georgetown or something. So you're doing the listening to her. You know, that's like Hillary doing the listening to her. I'm not really from New York, so I better drive around and pretend like I'm listening.
Well, that sounds familiar, but okay.
All right. Well, listen, that's that. City of Flint, I'm coming. Well, I'm coming. We want the answers. Our deepest condolences to the family of Ricky Hill Jr. and Ethan Quillen.
Can you throw that GoFundMe out for Ricky?
Yeah, I will.
All right.
Thank you for your service. I don't know what the GoFundMe is.
Oh, okay.
It's Ricky Hill Jr.
I will link it in the notes.
Yeah. Thank you for your service, and God bless your families. All right. We'll see you Thursday. Hopefully we'll have the Right Boy Rick video. And hey, Rick, thanks. It was a great evening, dude. Respect. Have a great time, Karen.
Thank you.